Hi, I'm Lance Barisi from Permanent Records, here to talk about the most epic psychedelic rock album of all time, The Psychedelic Sounds of the 13th Floor Elevators by the 13th Floor Elevators. This album is iconic, and it contains some of the most far-out sounds you can ever possibly imagine, and it's absolutely unbelievable to me that this record was recorded in 1966. It was recorded then, came out in 1966 in a mono edition, later pressed in a stereo edition in 1967, and the original pressings are rare as hen's teeth. You are probably already familiar with this album, at least one of the tracks on it, because You're Gonna Miss Me off of The Psychedelic Sounds of the 13th Floor Elevators was featured prominently in the film High Fidelity, starring John Cusack. The quintessential record store movie where the record store owners and the employees are all goofballs and they all hate life. But the soundtrack for this particular movie is amazing and contains You're Gonna Miss Me from this album. The singer, Rocky Erickson of the 13th Floor Elevators, had a long history and career, both solo and with the Elevators, and a tragic story. His life was the quintessential story of an acid casualty. Not only was he incarcerated in Texas because of his involvement in the drug scene in the rock and roll world back in the day. He was given shock treatment, etc., and his life was never the same after that. That did not stop him from going on to having an amazing solo career, both on his own and with his backing band, the Aliens, but we won't get into that right now. Right now we're talking about this album right here, the classic Psychedelic Sounds of the 13th Floor Elevators. One of the most mind-blowing things about this album to me is the fact that it was recorded when it was and where it was. Can you imagine living in Texas in 1966 or 1967, walking down the street wearing a tie-dye t-shirt, having long hair and crazy beads and bell-bottoms on? That kind of environment was not very conducive to being a trippy musician, and these guys went against the grain back then. And that's one of the most amazing parts of this album to me. Not only that it sounds the way that it does, but it was recorded where it was, in Texas, and released on a Texan label, International Artists, that did a sundry of other incredible psychedelic rock albums, from the Red Crayola and the Golden Dawn and others. And one important thing for collectors to notice here is that the amount of columns on the back will help you determine which pressing you have of this album. 3 columns on the back shows you that you have a 1966 pressing, and that is the most valuable and collectible version of this incredible album. Regardless of how valuable or collectible it is, the music on it is what is the reason why it is as essential and lauded as it is. This album contains some of the most far-out sounds you'll ever hear, including Tommy Hall's electric jug playing, where he has a microphone in an actual moonshine jug and makes sounds that go all over the place behind the band, jamming in the most insanely psychedelic way. I can't speak highly enough of this album. It deserves its place at the top of the heap of psychedelic albums from the 60s, and will always remain at the top of that list, at least in my mind. You have to check it out. Be prepared though, you will have your mind blown by the psychedelic sounds of the 13th Floor Elevators.